morning, this is Brian. Today is Wednesday, May 6, 2026, and I'm here in Cleveland National Forest, Laguna Mountain Recreation Area. I'm at a place I've parked area here at 650 feet elevation. Do a hike. Try to accomplish a couple things today. One of them might be getting up to Monument Peak. I might try to go for that today, and I'm going to try to see if I can find a specific plant. I've been trying to find it above 6,000 feet for a couple years now, which is a plant that's very common in the lower elevations in the inland foothills and lower mountains, called sugarbush rusuvata. There's an area north of Stevenson Peak at about 6,050 feet where it was noted on CalFlora. So I'm going to try to see if I can go up there, if it's not private property, and try to see if I can locate it today. So we'll see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hike down this to the PCT. This is the Stevenson Peak access road. Stevenson Peak is just up this way. Can't really see it from here, but it's really close. And I'm going to see if I can find sugarbush today above 6,000 feet. That would really be cool to finally see it at this elevation. And that's rusuvata. Again, commonly found mostly below 5,500 feet here in San Diego County, but I'm going to see if I can find it today. Start off the morning. There we go. Sierra Juarez Pinyon, Pinus juarezensis, still often known as four-leaf pinyon or Perry pinyon, Pinus quadrifolia. Those names I consider them somewhat interchangeable now, because there's, again, I've mentioned on previous videos that there's a disagreement as to what taxon we have here in Southern California. And then we got pink-backed manzanita already fruiting right here, Arctostaphylos pringlei drupacea. So I'm just going to head down this a little bit and duck down to the PCT. I take the PCT up to a service road, and from the service road, if it's hikeable, I'm going to try to find that plant today. Okay, we got Parrish blue curls budding out right now. It's just the first few flowers are starting to open on this plant. This is Trichostemma parrishi. Already blooming. Nice, beautiful, fragrant plant in the mint family. Often called Romero because it's related to rosemary, and Romero is Spanish for rosemary. And bush poppy. Right here, Dendromicon rigida, opening up. It's May, so it's wildflower season here in the Laguna Mountains. So we'll take some time to enjoy some of that. And also blooming up here at 6,000 feet. And I'm not going to climb up this berm too far, but hollyleaf cherry, Prunus alicifolia. Yes, here in San Diego County and in Riverside County, it's actually found above 6,000 feet. Be found pretty high up. So I'm going to head down this road, catch the PCT. Here's another hollyleaf cherry right here. This one's just starting to bud out. Yes, indeed, hollyleaf cherry grows up this high here in Southern California. I was looking down towards the Desert View picnic area. If you're coming up from Interstate 8, you'll pass it. If you want to come out to this lookout, you get some fantastic views. As soon as you see the sign for Desert View picnic area on your right, if you're coming from Interstate 8, it's the next paved road after it. Past the Mount Laguna Church and the little community, you'll see Desert View picnic area, and then you'll see this unmarked service road that leads up to Stevenson Peak. was gated before Stevenson Peak. You probably might have seen. Yep. Very nice day out here. Temperatures are I think in the upper 50s right now. Maybe getting close to 60 degrees. I think it's supposed to get up in the mid 60s up here, low to mid 60s. It's very nice weather right now. Here we are. Hollyleaf redberry. Another plant you find in the lowlands and commonly above 6,000 feet in the mountains. And of course, birchleaf mountain mahogany. That's another common factor here in the lagunas. Alright, so let's go ahead and look for the PCT. It's going to be probably closer to the road, but there are not really any pullouts along the side of this road until you get up to that lookout before the gate. So that's why I'm just parked here, or parked up there, and I'm going down this on the way to the PCT. So let's see, I might go all the way to Monument Peak depending on how I feel. It's May, so the sun goes down a lot later, so I'm not really worried about that. And I had a doctor's appointment, or else I would have been out much earlier. Might have been in the Cuyamaca Zoo and Cuyamaca Peak, but had an 11 a.m. appointment, so it's probably noon by now. All right, well, enough yapping. I'm going to go down and find the PCT. Since it's also springtime, prime time to see this in bloom too. This is a plant I point out all the time because there's a lot of it here. And this is western chokecherry right here, Prunus virginiana variety demissa. Looks like it's not quite in full bloom, but it's getting there. Look at that. Racemes of creamy white flowers. And also probably be seeing a lot of this today. And this is Lewis flax, Linum lewisii, variety lewisii. Common trailside plant here in the mid to upper elevation of the Laguna Range as well. I'll probably be coming across that quite a bit. And we also got school bells up here too. This is a Dipterostamen capitatus, variety capitatus, or subspecies capitatus. So school bells also grows about 6,000 feet, and anybody who's watched a lot of my hiking videos in the lower elevations has seen me point it out quite a bit down there. I almost thought this was a coast live oak at first. Wow, this thing really tripped me up. The scrub oak here. I was thinking this would be the highest place I've ever seen it, but no, it's not coast live oak. Here's PCT. So before you get down to the stop sign, about 50 yards from it, you'll come across the PCT. And I've hiked along this stretch before. When I did them, the last time I did Monument, no, not the last time, the second last time I did Monument Peak back in October 2023, I hiked along this as I did a loop. So I'm going to hike it again today. And see if I can take that road, that another paved road, up to the ridge line. I've seen other people hiking there, so I don't think it's a problem as long as you stay off of Stevenson Peak, which is supposed to be federal property or something. So we'll see. This will mark my 10th week straight hiking. Haven't missed a hike since, well, I first started this streak on March 4th. So this is my 10th week in a row. So here's hoping to continue the streak for a while. Here we go. More of that Sierra Juarez pinyon. And you'll find it here in peninsular ranges of San Diego County and in parts of Riverside County near Garner Valley as well. You'll find this thing growing. Pretty interesting. Oh yeah, I've been noticing the oaks have been getting chomped up. I think these are Pacific tent moth caterpillars. Remember back in 2024, they are all over the trail. They were even all over Sunrise Highway. Never seen so many caterpillars in my life in one spot. You can see, yeah, you can see, there they are again. And you can see the resultant damage. Last year, I remember they were crawling all over the trail, all over the grass. Not as many as that last time, but they're here for sure. But yeah, it rained here. Looked like it rained pretty decently yesterday or the day before. But there's some dampness in the soil. Got a little at my house too. A little late season action. So that's nice. Clean out the air a little bit. The air is really fresh, and the moisture in the soil contributes to the nice woodsy aromas of this area. Of course, can't come to Mount Laguna without seeing this either. Palmer ceanothus, and it's in bloom. Probably a little earlier than usual because of the incredibly record hot winter in March. And they're blooming already. Yes, indeed, Palmer ceanothus. Yeah, there's a lot of holly leaf redberry around here too. And a lot more school bells. Quite a bit of school bells here along the trail. Quite a bit, actually. And what do we got? Wavy leaf paintbrush, probably. Let's take a look. Indeed, a Rooney. Yes, Castanea Applegate subspecies martinii. Wavy leaf paintbrush. And these are not flowers. These are leaves, or flower. These are bracts. Looks like the flowers haven't really fully opened up yet, but the leaf bracts come out for the flowers, and that's the main attraction of the plant. The main color attraction is that, rather than the actual flowers, which are a little more inconspicuous in between those bracts. Yeah, there's a ball, the Doppler ball from Stevenson Peak, just above us. The peak's just about 6,200 feet in elevation. But the peak we're going to be hitting, Monument Peak, or that's at least the plan, depending on how much energy I have, is 6,271. Yeah, here's more of that Linum lewisii, variety lewisii, Lewis flax. It's a good time of year to hike and botanize because things are blooming. And another good reason to botanize is along this trail, this part of the PCT, get a few specimens of oracle oak. And this is Quercus marejus. And we have a pretty decent sized oracle oak right here. Got one here, here, and here. These are all oracle oaks. See, oracle oak is the hybrid between the interior live oak, and in our case, a shrub interior live oak, which I don't see right this second, but it's got to be nearby. And that's an evergreen. In other words, the leaves stay persistent on it all year. And that's Quercus wislizeni, and ours would be variety for Tessins. And the fully winter deciduous, or leafless in winter, California black oak, Quercus kelloggi, which is this one here. So oracle oaks tend to be anywhere from almost fully evergreen to nearly fully winter deciduous, and have a lot of intermediate characteristics between the interior live oak and the California black oak. Its bark. This is the bark on the oracle oak right here. This is the oracle oak bark. And its bark takes after its California black oak parent. Little checkerboard furrows. So, yeah. It gets its bark from its parent. The black oak. Here's another oracle oak right here, in fact. And you see the leaves. The leaves aren't fully lobed, but they do have some slight indentations. Some of them are a little bit more lobed, some of them are a little bit less lobed. So again, intermediate characteristics between parental lineages. So kind of interesting. Or should I say very interesting? Because, oh, and look at this. Look at this Sierra Juarez pinion right here. Oh, this is a nice one right here. Very well-formed specimen. I've yet to see single-leaf pinion here in the Lagunas. It might be, I'm not sure. I've never seen it, personally. But I know single-leaf pinion does grow in San Diego County. But this one's got anywhere from 3 to 5 needles per bundle, whereas single-leaf pinion has 1 needle per bundle. So you think, why is it called a bundle? If single-leaf pinion only has 1 needle per bundle, so-called bundle, why are you calling it a bundle if it's only 1? Well, just like the other pines, if you look at the base of the pine needles, you'll see sheaths, little brownish papery sheaths. And single-leaf pinion has that as well, despite only having a single needle. So, there you get it. So yeah, we've dipped a little below the 6,000 foot elevation. We're going to probably bottom out, probably close to 5,850, and then we're going to rise towards the crest. All right. Pale silk tassel, Garrya flavescens. All right. We got a lot of pinion pine up here. Something like about this stretch of Mount Laguna. So gotta look for that service road. I will be crossing it. I guess I gotta watch underfoot so I don't accidentally step on any Pacific tent moth caterpillars. It's a little bit of a mouthful. Okay, that's black oak. I was thinking. Okay, here we go again. Yeah, I remember this stretch of trail. Here we go again. California black oak, lobed leaves, oracle oak, slightly wavy to slightly lobed. Yes, indeed. We'll be coming across that quite a bit today. Oh man, the air is so nice up here today. So yep, keep my fingers crossed. Sugar bush at 6,000 feet. Please let today be the day. Even if it isn't, it's still great to be out here. Ooh, wonder what's going on here. Might be frost damage. Since the trees leafed out earlier than usual, some of the foliage might have gotten freeze damage. I don't know, there might have been snow flurries here a couple weeks ago, I don't know. Checker bloom. Oh, look at that Sidalcea, look at that. Ooh. Yeah. Got checker blooms up here too. Oh, I can smell the Jeffrey pines too in the air. I think the service road's not that far. I see it's a power pole just above us. Yeah. Like I said, I've done this hike. I've done a hike similar to this before, but I started. I think it was near Horse Heaven. Across the street from Horse Heaven Campground, and I hiked up to a random peak 59, 58, Then I darted over to Hayes Peak, Monument Peak, and I was going to try to get up to Stevenson Peak, but Stevenson Peak again, the top of it's technically off limits, so I had to kind of dip out and duck below, so I didn't get caught up in private property. All right, yeah, I think that's the road. What it's going to do is it's not going to go straight. It's going to kind of curve up, reach a junction at the ridge line, and I'm going to turn left and head towards the Monument Peak area. It's been nearly 2 years since I've been on Monument Peak. The end of May of 2024 was the last time I hiked at Monument Peak. So this time I'm trying it from a very different direction. Starting out at a lookout. Ooh, okay, western wallflower is already blooming too. Erissimum capitatum variety capitatum. Blooming up here as well. There's going to be a lot of flora to point out on this hike. If you want to get up in the mountains, especially now, especially in May. May and in June can be a very good month. I don't know how long they'll hold out this year because everything started off so early, but a lot of times June can be a very good month as well. Okay, I think we should be almost at the road. I can see power poles coming up from Sunrise Highway. Could have parked. I probably could have tried. Well, I might have been able to try to park somewhere near here, but I wouldn't want to block the fire road in case somebody had to roll up it, you know. Nice little gully right here. We're just about to join the road. Yeah, it's nicely wooded over here. You'll notice a lot of my hikes in Lagunas actually take place more in Chaparral because this mountain range has been absolutely ravaged over the years from so many fires over the decades, especially the last 50 to 100 years. It's been pretty insane. So here's the service road. Look to see if there's signage. I don't think so. Let me check it out really quickly. All right. After I get a few pictures, all right. So the PCT continues through here. I don't see any signage. Because, you know, PCTers might want to make side trips to peaks and stuff. There's a continuation of the PCT. I'm going to start working my way up this. Yeah, I just saw an SUV come down this. Probably somebody who works up at Stevenson Peak. I don't see any negative signage. Get to the crest. Take a look and see. I mean, it's a pretty straight shot. Get on this road, turn left, head up to Monument Peak. Pretty straightforward. This road, the junction at the top of the ridge, connects all the way to Monument Peak. Never gone up this way though. I've been on the Ridgeline Road for Monument Peak over to near Stevenson Peak. But like I said, I bypassed it, the peak, Stevenson Peak that is, because I didn't want to trespass on government land. I got some coulter pines now. There are some nice stands of coulter pine along this southern part of the ridge line before it starts dipping down. Start getting more coulter pines here. There's an immature green cone for this year. That is going to get probably 3 times as large as it is now, and eventually turn into a huge 5-pound cone with sharp claws on it. That cone's probably only about half to 2/3 the size. Haven't been around a lot of coulter pine lately, so this is a treat. Another species of tree I really truly dig seeing. So this road's actually going to curve away from Monument Peak, but it's going to join the same road that ascends Monument Peak. So it should be interesting. I'm going to go ahead and snap a few photos, and I'll see you on the next clip. I need to take pictures of some of these beautiful coulter pines. I haven't been around a lot of them this year. Okay, here's something interesting. There's a random royal willow growing up here. Salix lasiolipus. Kind of interesting. This is a royal willow. There must be an underground source of water here. Oh, that breeze feels great. I see our royal willows all the time. No surprise there. Okay. Got a lot of young pine saplings and cypress saplings here too. Wonder if they were just planted. Oh, I bet you these came up on their own actually. Fire. Must have been a small burn over here recently. So yeah. This is probably a coulter pine sapling. I'm going to go on a wild guess that this is probably Cuyamaca cypress, Hespericiparus stevensonii, probably. It's kind of an interesting area. What do we have here? This is probably a deodar. This is not native tree here. This is probably a Cedrus deodara. Or maybe a Cedrus atlantica glauca. Maybe these were planted here. Or is this... Or am I tripping? Hold up. Yeah, these sprigs of foliage. This has got to be a deodar or an Atlas cedar sapling. Not native here. There's another one there. Maybe this stuff was planted. This is an interesting area. Kind of a flat section here. I've never been over here before, so that's why I just kind of find it interesting. And the road's no longer paved. I'm trying to see which way it goes. This is quite an interesting, different area. Is that it there? There's one of the tower facilities there. I'm going to follow it this way. I'm going to go straight through, but I think there's something going over that way as well. This is quite interesting over here. Never been over here before. Yeah, that's Monument Peak over there. Should be my ultimate destination of the day. I don't think I'm going to go all the way to Hayes, I don't think. I mean, I could. I could pretty much do whatever I want. Back to going out on Wednesdays. Very different vibe over here. Quite interesting with all the flat expanse over here. It's definitely nicely wooded here. And we got a mixture of Jeffrey and Coulter pine. This is a Jeffrey pine right here. But yeah, we have both. Those are the Jeffrey cones right there. Much smaller than your Coulter pines. Need some pictures of this too. It's pretty up here. I swear, I think people are gardening up here. Look at this. This is definitely not a native juniper. It's probably Juniperus horizontalis. The kind you find growing in people's front yards that spread and are partially horizontal. Yeah, people must be planting gardens up here or something. This is definitely a very interesting, expansive land. Look at that Coulter pine right there. Both those Coulter pines in the center of the frame. Wow, one of them's got a huge trunk on it. Here's a pretty hefty Jeffrey pine here too. Yeah, that's quite beautiful up here. It smells incredible too. All the wood chips on the ground, moisture in the soil, of course the pine trees. This is quite interesting over here. Very interesting. Here we go again. Western Mountain chickadee. I miss hearing that. First started noticing that bird sound when I was hiking used to go hiking in the San Gabriel Mountains in the Angeles National Forest in Los Angeles County. I started noticing that bird. Didn't know what it was for a few years, but I always loved that sound. Always reminds me of hiking in the San Gabriel Mountains. And if you watch any of my older content, when I used to live in Orange County, I used to go hiking around the Angeles a lot. So hearing that brings back good memories of hiking in Angeles National Forest. Just about at the ridgeline already. You're gonna think I should have come this way. Not because it's not beautiful. There's a sign on that gate. Oh, it's just a speed limit sign. That's all it is. That's all it is. No signage. All right, so I'm good then. All right. Let's see. So yeah, I've been over here before. Not that far from the tower was the Cal Flora record. The observation for sugar bush. So I am gonna go look for it now. And Monument Peak is probably about a half mile, 3/4 of a mile away. See what I find. All right. What will I see at the edge of this precipice? It's pretty good views, I'm assuming. We are about 6,000 feet again. Ooh, a side blotch lizard. Look at that. Female side blotch lizard. Oh, wow. Look at the incredible views from here. I'm not sure what canyon this is. This is Storm Canyon, but it's one of those really steep precipices that just literally drop off semi-vertically from the Laguna crest. Oh, this is insane. Wow. Views here are ridiculously awesome. Wow. That thing drains down a good few thousand feet down to the desert floor. It's probably 30, 35 degrees hotter down there. Maybe in the 80s or 90s. But up here, feels like it's maybe in the 50s, maybe. It's very nice right now. Wow. Now, these are the Sawtooth Mountains. This is a kind of a subrange of the Lagunas. Kind of goes perpendicular. Yeah, these are the Sawtooth Mountains right here. There's another little small range that juts off here called the Sawtooth Range. But we're supposed to have two. These are called the Sawtooth Mountains right here. Pretty nice. There are some incredible views up here. So yeah, I'm gonna go back on the road. I'm gonna hike along it a little bit and see if I could find sugar bush here at about 6,000 feet. That'd be a great find for me today. Here we go, some blooming canyon live oak, Orchis chrysolopus. Yeah, it feels great to be in the mountains. I've been hiking up smaller mountains and hills over the last several weeks, but I haven't really been in the mountains, like the tall mountains. I'm mostly hiking in lower elevation hills and peaklets. Let's see. Take a look over here and see if I can find anything over here. There's a lot of pinkback manzanita, that's for sure. That should not be a surprise. So up here, pinkback manzanita is a dime a dozen. Up here in the lagunas. Let's see. Trying to look around and see if I see anything shiny leafed. Oh, we got pink. Tripping. Oh, I sure got Garrya flavescens up here. But will I find the elusive 6,000 foot elevation sugar bush today? That's what I want to know. That's what I'm going to try to find out. It was observed in this area on Cal Flora in this general vicinity, so I don't see why not. So I'm going to keep looking. Here's a pretty big couple leaf ceanothus here. It already flowered. It's already going into seed. And we're just barely in May. It's already going into seed. It's pretty crazy. All right. This is a nice ridgeline. I like this area. All right. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep looking for that sugar bush. My fingers are crossed. Let's see if that works in my favor today. Alright, so I'm coming up to another lookout area. Yeah, this ridgeline, you get some incredible views off to the desert side of the Laguna Range. So a nice little clearing here, mostly full of this here, which is the hairy yerba santa, and this is a more of a local variant here. Pointed this one out and even done a spotlight video in this area, and this is Areodictyon trichocalix variety lanatum. Okay, what's this over here? Something shiny leafed. I think it's probably a black oak. Yeah, I'm looking for sugar bush, believe me. I'm looking for it right now as we speak. Look at that little cliff right there. Maybe I'll wait back. Maybe I can see if I can find a way to get up there. That'd be kind of neat. Yeah, there's a little clearing over here. It's too bad. Too bad there weren't any paved road approaches closer. Because one of these days I'd love to try to climb up one of these canyons cross country. One day I would love to be able to get nutty enough to do something like that. Yeah, just the views of this canyon are absolutely spectacular. And of course, Whale Peak over there in the background. I believe it's a part of the Vallecitos Mountains, I believe is the name of the range. I think it's the name of the range. It's a small mountain range. Whale Peak's a little over a mile high. It's pretty incredible up here. You get a picture of this. Alright, I'm going to go up this service road. This is about the location I saw. Right in this area is where the big dot, the little blue dot on Calflora showed observations of Russo Vada. And we are at 6,000 feet right now. Just barely, but we're at 6,000 feet. It's gotta be around here somewhere. Got some California thistle booming up here. Look at that. That's cool. Alright. Got a lot of different types of scrub oaks. Another thistle. One plant that, if I see it, should be able to find sugar bush too. And it's this here, which is common chamise, Adenostoma fasciculatum, variety fasciculatum. Here in San Diego County, and in Riverside, and even Los Angeles counties, I've seen it several times above the 6,000 foot contour. In Riverside County, I've seen it about as high as 6,700 feet. So chamise is here, hollyleaf cherries in the area. I don't see why sugar bush shouldn't be here. Gotta be around here somewhere. Yeah, it's kind of like partly peak focused and partly botanically focused. I'm not seeing it though. I really hope to see it above 6,000 feet, which I'm not quite seeing. We are just a little above it here. Maybe I'll walk along this a little bit if I can locate it. Maybe I could find it somewhere along here. To me, that would be one of my best plant finds. Now, it's a plant I've seen on many, many occasions, but not at such a high elevation. Watch out, there's some cryptanthus down here in the dirt. Gotta watch where I step, so I'm careful. Not seen it yet. Would totally be a game changer for me in my plant hunting expeditions. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It's going to be similar looking to the manzanita, only the leaves are larger and shinier. The leaves are a lot larger than on manzanitas, but the structure is very similar. It's a mounding shrub, but the leaves are kind of a rich green and kind of shiny. There's a lot of chamise up here. That's not a surprise to me anymore. I know, the first time I saw it above 6,000 feet, I was kind of shocked. I didn't think it grew that high, but here in Mount Laguna, it's regularly encountered above 6,000 feet. Still trying to see if I can find the elusive high elevation sugar bush. Oh man. Well, I guess I'll keep ambling along. Really would love to find it here. This is the area where it was shown on Cal Florida to be found. And yet, I'm not seeing any of it. I'll just wander around this a little bit longer, I guess. And I'll see you on the next clip. Alright. I found a little tiny oracle oak. Right here, a little tiny guy. Yeah. Obviously, my tone of voice would be a lot different if I had spotted it. I probably would sound like a giddy schoolgirl. I'm not giving up yet. I'm going to explore, probably go off trail a couple times to explore and try to see if I can find sugar bush up here. So right around the 6,000 foot mark, right around it, there's some interesting stuff a little bit higher up there. Let me see if I can find a cross-country route to get up there. Probably be a little, maybe a little bit of bushwhacking. I don't know. It's kind of grayish to be sugar bush, but maybe I'll go up a different way. Ay, ay, ay. Thought I saw something that looked like it could be a pathway up there. At this high elevation, if I were to find it, I would expect it to be on a west, south, or southwest facing slope. So that has exposure to the warmest conditions, warmest and driest conditions. So let's see. So I'm just north of that tower there. Yep, I'm looking for like crazy right now. Really trying to find it. I think it's going to be a scrub oak, to be honest with you. There's some other stuff higher up that could potentially be it, but it's probably going to be almost a scrub oak. Aha! I found one! Aha! I found a sugar bush at 6,000 feet! Aha! Oh, buddy! Here we go! 6,000 feet, sugar bush! Here we go! I finally found it! Did I tell you my tone of voice was going to be different? Oh, buddy! Yes! Finally! 6,000 feet in the Laguna Mountains. Rus ovata. Oh, yeah! I've been trying for this for a couple of years. It was under my nose the whole time. Yes, we have Russo Vada at 6,000 feet here in the Laguna Mountains. Oh, buddy. Yeah. Okay. This is going on Cal, Florida. For sure. Take a picture of this right now. I'm just going to go a little bit higher up on this, see if I can find a population of it. I told you the tone of my voice was going to be a lot different when I found it. Not that I was in a bad mood previously, I was just kind of anxious to find it. Russo Vada at 6,000 feet here in the Laguna Mountains. And I figured the Monument Peak area would be the best bet to find that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go up this. Woo-wee. At least I found one. Cool. All right. And I got photographic evidence of it. So I can put it on Cal, Florida. All right. See if I can get through this. Ooh, a little bushwhacking here. Oh boy. Oh, yeah. All right. Whew. That is so cool. Finally found a Russo Vada at 6,000 feet. Amazing. All right. Had a feeling this day was going to come. Not sure, was hoping it would. Yeah, let me see if I can get through this a little bit. I'm going to get to the top of this and see what it's like up here. Hey! See what's up here. All right. One. That's cool. That's pretty cool, actually. There's a species of cholla that was growing up here. I don't know what species. It's probably silver cholla. I see another one up there. Well, finally found it. I'm going to double check to make sure it's fully at 6K. Parts of this ridgeline dipped very slightly below it, but I think where I was just at it or above it. I think this is silver cholla. First time I've seen any cholla in the lagunas. I think that's Puntia echinocarpa, I think. Double check that one as well. Yeah. I finally found a sugar bush up this high. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I definitely put my day up even more. It's already great because I've been up here in the mountains today, but that just leveled it up even more. Okay, get a picture here. This is more hollyleaf cherry. Getting ready to bud out. So I found one sugar bush. That's the highest I've ever seen sugar bush. Happily and proudly. Alright. Follow this. See if I can get to Monument Peak this way. See if it's possible without a ridiculous bushwhack. There's a lot more cholla growing up here now. At least some more. Facing this desert slope here. So yeah. All right. There's another cholla right there. I think that's a echinocarpa. I'm not 100% sure. also be an interesting way to reach Monument Peak if it's doable. There it is, just over there. Look at this view. This is incredible. Sometimes going a little off trail gets you the best results. Sometimes, say if you're careful, you do it smart. It's definitely an interesting ridge walk. I'm almost at the top of this rise here. This might actually be like a small peaklet. I want to see if I can get to the top of it and see what's up. Wow, that's cool up here. Beautiful. Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, here's another one. So this one's actually a little bit higher. Yes, indeed. Found me another sugar bush. Another one. Really small and stunted, but it's a sugar bush. Yeah, this is a plant I pointed out so many times hiking in the chaparral and lower elevation mountains. I pointed out this all the time, but seeing it up here, this high elevation, is insane, and it's a joy to see sugar bush this high up. I've always wanted to have this experience, and I'm having it right now. And that's why I'm here sharing it with you. If you're as enthusiastic about finding plants higher up than their typical elevation range or known elevation range, this is the type of content I like to see and I like to give out to people who might be interested in such things. Yes, indeed, Rus ovata, over 6,000 feet elevation. Yes, it does, baby! Picture time. Alright, so I just left the sugar bush behind, just a few feet back. Trying to get up to the top of this rise here. It's a small promontory here. Never been up here before. So I'm glad I'm trying something a little different today. I don't know what the prominence on this will be. I'm assuming pretty small. Just watching out where I put my hands and feet. Also, the top of this peak. Oh, I'm trying to be careful with any of these caterpillars. A few caterpillars here near the top of this. Oh boy. A little class 2, nothing major. Here I am on top of this little promontory. It's not really a big ticket peak by any stretch, but I'm kind of glad I made it up to the top of a small crag. Pretty cool. So yeah, figured Monument Peak, the Monument Peak area would be where I'd most likely come across sugar bush above 6,000 feet. There might be one over there too. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool on top of this little summit, a little miniature summit here. I want to take a little summit selfie here. It's gonna be like peaklet one number 1. I'm gonna count it today. Nice little chaparral, low chaparral way to get up here. Nothing too crazy. Just the rocks are a little bit tricky, especially if you're trying to avoid stepping on caterpillars. So I kind of had to watch my step. Otherwise, this is the easiest. Just barely even, maybe barely qualifies as the very bare minimum class 2, if even that, just to get up here. But I'm gonna get a few. At least I'm gonna get a little summit selfie here. Do a little 360. In fact, let's start by looking east, and I'll go counterclockwise like I typically do. Sawtooth Range, northeast at Whale Peak, northeast at the Santa Rosa Mountains, including Rabbit Peak and Villager Peak, roughly north towards Monument Peak, of course. west towards Cuyamaca, west towards Viejas Mountain, southwest towards the Guatai Mountain, southwest towards Otay Mountain off in the distance, Wooded Hill, Stevenson Peak. I always wanted to hike, but don't think I can really do so. Alright, a quick little 360 up here. Okay. So yes, I have achieved a goal today of finding sugar bush above 6,000 feet. 1,830 meters is about 6,000 feet. Now, if I were to try to do the ridge walk to Monument Peak, it looks like it'd be a little trickier from here. So I might retreat back down to the road, but I wanted to explore and come up. I wanted to explore this ridge line a little bit too, because it's really nice. You get great views up here. Spectacular views, actually. Probably close to as good as you get on top of Monument Peak itself, but obviously Monument Peak's higher, so it's going to block off a little chunk of the view, but the views of this canyon are just absolutely breathtaking. Wow. That's incredible up here. This is breathtaking. Breathtaking, beautiful ridgeline. I mean, I've been on parts of this ridgeline, obviously, in earlier clips when I was pointing out the views up here. Yeah, this could be a little more of a bushwhacking here. Yeah, there might be some bushwhacking. Wow. This is absolutely stunning up here. It's more high-leaf cherry. There's a lot of high-leaf cherry growing up here too. Since we're this high up, they like to be in more exposed areas. Down the low elevations, usually you'll find them in north-facing slope chaparral. In the lower elevations where it's drier. But up here where you get more rain and obviously snowfall, you'll find them in drier areas than you would find, for example, the conifer forest. Just down that way in that valley is where it's all wooded and even forested. Black oak, coulter pine, Jeffrey pine. And then here we are. Yeah, more common chamise. I'd say we're probably pretty close to 6,100 feet here, probably. I don't know the exact elevation, but got to be pretty close to that up here. Let me see. Yeah, this is beautiful up here. So sometimes going off the trail a little bit, if you can. Some places very strict about hiking off trail. Those places I wouldn't. But usually in the national forests, you assume the risk that's taken by going off trail to do these adventures. A lot of caterpillars. I just gotta watch where I step so I don't step on them. So far, it's not too bad. I don't know how long this will last before it becomes a bushwhack, but it's a little bit more of a wade than a bushwhack. It is. Sure is beautiful up here. Wondering if I should try to take the ridgeline all the way. It's made for an interesting adventure, that's for sure. On the way back, though, for sure, I'm going to take the road so I can save my energy for some uphill on the way back. It won't be a ridiculous amount of uphill, just a few hundred feet of climbing on the way back, but I want to be careful. Boy, one thing we'll have to look for is a lot of branches and stuff that'll make the footing up here sometimes a little tricky. So just watch where you step. Weather today is absolutely spectacular. And I say spectacular, I do not mince my words. Okay. Let's see. So maybe I won't follow the ridgeline the whole time, but this will be kind of an interesting way to climb Monument Peak, that's for sure. Trying a different approach. And even if I do bail out to the road, at least I got to explore some parts of this ridgeline today. This ridgeline is spectacular. Absolutely insanely beautiful up here. This probably used to be an old fire break. I'm going to assume that this used to be a fire break a long time ago. Some of it is, a lot of it is quite passable for cross-country travel. It still is a little tricky at times, but I haven't really been through any severe bushwhacking yet. And judging by the looks of the chaparral here, it might not get down to that too much at all. All right, time to take a few pictures and make my way up there. So I'm still kind of just wiggling around. I'm a little bit under the, just barely under the ridgeline right now. Chaparral's getting a little thicker. So I'm also still contemplating bailing out, going towards the road. But here we go. We got some Mueller scrub oak up here. This is Quercus cornelius muelleri. Yes, indeed. You can find this in quite a bit here on the Laguna ridgeline as well. Yes, indeed. That's one scrub oak I have not done a spotlight video highlighting yet. And I pointed out pale silk tassel Garrya flavescens earlier, but now it looks like we got Fremont silk tassel Garrya fremontii growing here too. I've seen it a couple times here in the lagunas. I tend to see it more in the San Jacinto Mountains, but I have seen it here as well a few times in the lagunas as well, in this general vicinity, in the higher parts of the Laguna Mountains. So it looks like we're going to get a little thicker here, so let's see if I could bail out towards the road before I shred my clothing up. I'm going to see if I can either go underneath it, side hill it a little bit, because it looks like it's thickening up a bit, and it's going to be a lot more difficult to pass. But yeah, so we have at least two species of Garrya growing here in the lagunas. Could be a third one. Garrya veitchii might be a possibility here too. But I haven't really done much research on Garrya veitchii in this area. That's called canyon silk tassel. And I've come across that a few times, but that's the one I come across by far the least amount. Garrya flavescens is the pale silk tassel. That's the one I come across by far, and I mean by far the most, on any hike here in Southern California. But yeah, we have at least 3 species. And if you go up towards, I think you got to go a little further north to come across Garrya elliptica, which is a much larger shrub called wavy leaf silk tassel. And I've only seen that one in an arboretum. I've never seen that in the wild. I don't even know if it comes down by Santa Barbara. I've been by Santa Barbara once. I found some interesting stuff over there, but I don't remember seeing Garrya elliptica down that far. So yeah, this is me just looking. This is my plan, just looking for the most open areas to amble. There will be some bushwhacking, it looks like, and some decent wading. The wading gets a little tricky in spots. Kind of gets a little tricky, especially here. Then I come across these little open patches for short periods of time. Like I said, it could just close up on me and become a full-fledged bushwhack at some point, so keep my eyes out on that as well. See a penstemon here. This might be a first for me as well. Now, oh, okay, I think this is penstemon. Oh, I think this is Penstemon spectabilis, ready spectabilis. There's another species that's supposed to be pretty similar to it, and I think it's called Penstemon clevelandi, I believe is the name of it. But I think, yeah, this one I think is Penstemon spectabilis, ready spectabilis, I believe. I didn't know it really grew this high up in elevation. I guess it's possible. So. Oh, a toad! Ooh! I don't know if the camera caught it, but I just saw a toad hop across my path. Yeah! I'm trying to figure out what kind of toad it was. I didn't get a good enough look at it. It was a young adult, probably about 2.5 inches long. An actual toad. It's the second time I've seen a toad here in the lagunas. Every now and then I come across toads in the wild, but there's a second time here in the lagunas where I've seen a toad. I'm not sure if that was a western toad, an Anaxyrus boreas halophilus, or that could have been another species, or at least another species of Anaxyrus growing here. But I couldn't get a close enough look to see if there was a line across its back, which would have made it western toad, Anaxyrus boreas halophilus. Could have been a arroyo toad as well. I think arroyo toad is a possibility, I think, in this area. Okay, it opens up pretty nicely here. All right, let's see how long the good goes. Yeah, these grayer shrubs here look like they're probably more Mueller oaks. All right, that was cool. Saw a toad today. I don't think the camera got it, but I sure saw it. Hence the little reaction I had. All right. Yeah, I figured this was going to be another Mueller scrub oak. You can see it from quite a ways back. So cool, first time I've seen a toad in a while. I think the last time I saw a toad was, the one time I was hiking to Monument Peak from a trail that connects from Horse Heaven to PCT down that way. That's pretty interesting. All right, well, enough yapping, a little more route finding. See you on the next clip. So I'm at this little clearing here, trying to figure out which is the next best move to scramble up these rocks, go straight through this. Trying to just figuring this out as I go. So I might have to do a little light rock scrambling over here, maybe. Let's see. Scramble up this a little bit. Maybe. Okay. All right. Somebody driving along Monument Peak Road probably doesn't even notice I'm here. Say, or who's that weirdo scrambling along the ridge? Somebody looking for a little bit more challenging way to approach a peak here in this Laguna Range. That's really not much rock scrambling, at least not for me. But I gotta try to see if I can give this yucca a bit of a berth so I don't stab myself up here. Let's see. It's definitely the most interesting way I've climbed Monument Peak. Never done the off-trail version before. Not super far from it, actually. Like I said, I just wanted to try stepping my game up a little bit. Peak is just over there. But like I said, I still have some distance to cover, which means likely some bushwhacking up ahead. I think I found more sugar bush too, even higher up. We're probably close to 60, we're at least got to be above 6,100 feet now. And I see a sugar bush up ahead. The question is, how do I get to it? Let's see. So if you're going to do this crazy version like I'm doing, it's just finding a route that suits you to get around all the obstacles up here. But yeah, there is another sugar bush just up ahead. And that will now qualify as the highest I've ever seen it here. Because we probably about 6,150 feet above sea level here. And I just saw it too. Where did I see it? I thought I saw it over there. I know I saw the olive green folded up leaves indicative of Russo Vada. Maybe we'll have to bypass it and not go to it if it's going to be a insane bushwhack. Let me see. Okay. Oh boy. Yeah. That's definitely an interesting way to get to Monument Peak. Alright, I'm just about at the sugar bush right now. It's right around this corner here. Here we go. Probably nearly 6,200 feet. And here's another Russo Vada. Another proud sight. Just south of Monument Peak. Along this ridge line. It took me quite a while to get from that little point, that little summit bump right there, to get over here, because you got to look around and kind of feel your way around the chaparral. Let me get a picture of this too. I'm going to put this on CalFlora as well. We got some highlighted cherry opening up its blooms up here now. Little cream colored flowers. Yeah. Started to open up on this one. Oh man. This is a plant I love seeing no matter where I am. From the coast to 6,600 feet in the San Jacinto Mountains where I've seen it. That high up along the Cedar Springs Trail. I have a couple of videos where I climb up the Cedar Springs Trail and point it out constantly until I'm nearly at the Desert Divide, where the Cedar Springs Trail meets the Pacific Crest Trail. Not quite as, I haven't seen it quite at 6,700 feet, but I've seen it close to 6,600 feet along the Cedar Springs Trail, not that far below the 6,780 foot junction with the Cedar Springs and Pacific Crest Trail. Ooh, it opens up nicely over here. This is quite an interesting way to climb Monument Peak. I'm glad so far I've committed myself to it. I mean, I've climbed the other side a little bit along a fire break, breaking off from the PCT. I climbed it on a fire break from the Hayes Peak side and Peak 59, 58, that direction. So I've been up from that side, but it's a lot less wading and a lot less brush than this way. This is completely off trail. The other one's like a use trail fire break. This is completely trailless. This probably was an old fire break decades ago that has since regrown, because there are some open spots that make travel here at times relatively easy. Look at this. Look at the lichens. Lichens or mosses on those rocks down there below us. Green, it's probably lichens, but I'm wondering if those could be mosses too from the rain that recently happened. That is so cool. Yeah. But Monument Peak is a really important centrally located area here in Cleveland National Forest. It's one of the highest peaks. There's one peak that's just a little higher in Cleveland National Forest, and it requires off-trail travel to reach that as well. That one requires off-trail travel. This one doesn't. You can stay on road, trail, and use trail the entire way. And it's a much easier approach than walking cross-country along the ridge. That's Peak 6301, which is that one there. It used to be listed as Peak 6299, right there. That's the high point of the Cleveland National Forest. And the elevation, I think, is 6,301 or 6,305 feet now. It used to be listed as Peak 6299. But it's also called Mount Laguna. It's also a term unofficially named as Mount Laguna. If you look it up on Peak Bagger, it's called Mount Laguna. All right. Yeah. This has been a very interesting ridge walk, and I'm glad to be able to share it with you guys here. If you want an interesting way to get up to Monument Peak, well, here you go. I have yet to figure out the logistics of trying to hike it from the desert floor on the opposite side, which would probably require more than 4,000 feet of climbing, maybe even more than 5,000 feet, depending on how many ups and downs there are. But that would be probably one of the most difficult hikes I would have ever attempted, unless I do Cactus Clouds before then, which is extremely unlikely. I'm nowhere near in shape for Cactus Clouds. All right. So far, right here on the actual ridge again itself, the views are more spectacular here than from hiking up the roads and trails. I mean, you'll get similar views when you're on top, but if you're approaching Monument Peak cross country from the south, if you're approaching cross country along the ridge and the trail, then you really get to see these beautiful ground the southeastern slope of Monument Peak. So sometimes a little off-trail adventure, you really get to see stuff you wouldn't get to see if you were on trail. And I said, make sure you know the area so you can do such a hike. Make sure you know the area. This requires some pictures. I've got to take some pictures. Okay, so I've been kind of more or less following the ridge, sometimes ducking below it on the left side, or the west side, sometimes ducking slightly below it on the east side. I'm really close to the peak right now. Again, I'm just trying to pay attention to which would be the best routes to get to the last bit. This has been the most interesting way I've ever climbed Monument Peak. And I've been up here at least 3 or 4 times. One in 2017. Been up here once in 2022. So this will be the 5th time I've been on Monument Peak. This will be the 5th time I've climbed this peak. From a very different direction. So yeah, I have encountered some very light, very easy Class 2 scrambling along the way. There is some Class 2. There's a rented. Yep. Find them at sea level, and you can find them above 6,000 feet in the mountains as well. Yeah, a lot of these are chamois. There's a lot of common chamois on this side of Monument Peak. So let's see. This, I'm wondering if this is actually going to be low Class 3. This might be some low Class 3 right here, actually. But then I can see a low wade. Hand here to scramble down this. Well, so far not too bad. This might have been, I'd say this is maybe more upper Class 2, maybe not quite Class 3. It was close though. It was pretty easy though. I'd say it was Class 2. Not quite Class 3, but close. I'd say Class 2 plus, just for the sake of it. Alright. This is definitely going to be the slow approach. Because when you're on trail, you have relative freedom of movement. Here, sometimes you got to step in and over shrubs. Alright. Just going to follow this, probably meet up with the road. Some more Parrish blue curls. There's a lot of chamois up here too. It almost, despite the air being a little thinner, you can breathe a little bit heavier on this. It's only 6,000 feet for me. I used to regularly hike above 7,000 and 8,000 feet back in the day, but so moving to San Diego County, I don't do that as much. So the chamois here gives off the illusion of hiking in the lower elevations, but in reality, we're about 6,200 feet right now. Okay, a tale of 2 silk tassels in the same area. Look at this grayish green pale silk tassel, Garrya flavescens. Yes, indeed. And the olive green Fremont silk tassel, Garrya fremontii. Less grayish than the pale silk tassel. So now I got to compare and contrast them almost side by side, which is pretty cool. I don't usually see them growing side by side. All right. So I'm just going to follow the opening in the shrubs to get near the upper portion of the spur road to get up to the top of Monument Peak. So when I map this out, it's going to be a very general beeline mapping from where I left the road just north of that repeater tower to the south, where I left the road and where I joined the ridge. So I'm not using it for GPS, I just use it as a reference to the general route I take. Okay, now we're getting into some chaparral now. I think I'm gonna go head over this open bit to the last bit of the road. So generally I followed more or less the ridge line to get here, but I did it, had it weaved in between trips. The mileage I come up with will be pretty close, but probably very slightly understated. Not enough to make much of a difference, but it's an approximate. Alright, I'm just about to join the road, the spur road, that leads to the peak. Very interesting way to climb Monument Peak. A lot of off trail on this one. Alright, see you at the road. Now it's just time to join the paved service road the rest of the way. So the hard part of this hike is over. Look at this old common chemise. Look at the stems on this thing. Look at that. This one's been around for a while. Adenosoma fasciculatum, variety fasciculatum. Growing here at 6,200 feet in the Laguna Mountains. This has been a very, very interesting hike. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of fun navigating the ridgeline. Do something different. Really happy I took that route. There's an old canyon live oak thicket. Occasionally see a few of these. What's in that rented? That one's got a faster trill than a lot of the ones I hear in the lowlands. I think I just saw it too. Yeah, there it is. There's a rented in this bush right here. I can see it. The camera won't show it very well. There is a rented inside of this couple-leaf ceanothus. This is the one I kept hearing before seeing it. Yeah, it's hopping around in that couple-leaf ceanothus. All right. Cool. That's been a pretty interesting hike, not gonna lie. All right, I'll see you near the top. Okay. So, time to finish. Come to the peak. There's a summit sign up here. All right. Okay. Make a quick little rock hop. This one says 6,278. Maybe that's what it says on Peakbacker. Okay. This is it. Monument Peak. Here I am again. 5th time up here. Monument Peak. This little rock pile is the summit. Thankfully it's out of the restricted little spot there. Here I am again. There's Hayes Peak just up ahead. Very nice. Very, very nice. Time for a summit selfie. Yeah, I've been noticing peak signs on a lot of peaks I've been climbing lately. There's even one in the vernal pool area on Dictionary Hill. It's not, you can't pick it up because it's in the vernal pool area, but it's hammered into the ground on the stand, on the snake, which is pretty cool. Yes, indeed. Here I am on Monument Peak again. 5th time I've been on this peak. Most of the approaches I've taken have been fairly easy. This time was a little more challenging because the route I took originally wasn't going to take that ridge route. I was just going to follow the road because one of my main objectives was to find sugar bushes above 6,000 feet elevation, which I succeeded, thankfully. But I also wanted to at least summit something, and here I summited something. Yeah, very nice. Some real good views of San Diego County up here. I gotta put in a battery and then I can start pointing out some views up here. Start pointing out some views. I'm gonna start by looking west. Looking west out towards. Let's go zoom in. I'm gonna do this counterclockwise as usual. See, off in the distance in the haze there is El Cajon Mountain. Right there. Right above Lakeside. And there I am looking towards Viejas Mountain. Ooh, look at that raven coming into view. Cool. Nice. So yeah, I've got Viejas Mountain. I think that's looking over towards Chiquito Peak over there. There's southwest towards Guatay Mountain, that double humped mountain in the center of the frame. And I can see out to its left, way in the haze, I can see Siquan Peak. And even further in the haze, I can see San Miguel Mountain, just to the right of that rightmost pole. Then I can see over by Lions Peak, that pointy one near the center, and that long ridge in the far background, way in the back, just to the right of that pole, is over by the Otay Mountain area of the San Isidro Range by the border. And then I can see Corte Madera Mountain just to the left of the pole. That rocky ridge just to the left there, just to the right of that part of the repeater. Looking south, as you can see, we barely can see it too well, but Wooded Hill is back that way. That's a peak that's just a little bit lower than this, about 30-something feet lower than this. And then, looking south, still kind of south, more to the south-southeast, you can see over by Mount Laguna, or Cleveland National Forest High Point. And then there's the highest point in the Laguna Range, which is not in Cleveland National Forest, and that's Cuyapaipe Mountain, right there. I'm looking southeast towards Imperial County. Looking a little more east-southeast, you can see the Sawtooth Mountains jutting out and heading down towards the desert floor. Looking east, out towards Salton Sea, in the haze there. And then, of course, Whale Peak. Now we're kind of swinging out more northeast now. So further northeast, I can see the expanse, the hazy expanse of the Santa Rosa Mountains, with Rabbit Peak more towards the right. And then, towards the left, you can see Toro Peak and Santa Rosa Mountain. Northeast, I can see out by the San Isidro Mountain Range. Out here, that's the San Isidro Mountain Range. Another San Isidro Mountain Range here in San Diego County, only it's to the northeast of here. And San Isidro Mountain is that high point, kind of in the center, kind of hard to see. And then Hot Springs Mountain is just to its left, just a few hundred feet higher. And then behind it, way in the haze, down and just a little bit to the right of those clouds, those cumulus humilis clouds, is San Jacinto itself, Mount San Jacinto. Now, north, looking towards Granite Mountain, another high point in Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. And then you can see the Vulcan Mountains in the center, for the center background. And then that big long ridge in the far haze is Palomar Mountain. And underneath it is the jagged profile of Garnet Peak, with North Peak of the Cuyamaca Mountains on the upper left side there, that cone-shaped peak. Speaking of which, now we're looking west-northwest. I can see Middle Peak. You might be able to pick out the rocky pieces of Stonewall Peak to its left. And then Cuyamaca Peak, the second highest point in San Diego County behind Hot Springs Mountain. And we close out looking towards the East Mesa area underneath Cuyamaca and back towards El Cajon Mountain to the west. So yeah, good views to be had up here on Monument Peak. Very beautiful views. Very good views. This peak, I believe, only has about 400, between 400 and 500 feet of prominence, but it is one of the highest peaks here in the Lagunas. It's probably the fourth highest peak behind the sub-peak of Cuyapaipe. Cuyapaipe's got two peaks, and one of them is just slightly lower than the other, so I guess you could say that this is the fourth highest peak in the Lagunas, and not by much. So yeah, incredible views up here, and I'm glad to be back up here on Monument Peak again for the 5th time. Yeah, this is always a nice peak to visit. Very highly recommended to come up here and enjoy some time. I'm going to take a few summit shots and start, maybe rest for a few minutes, and then start making up my next plan. I'll show you the little benchmark up here. Little triangulation benchmark. Yep. Monument, and then this board that says Accent. And it's a Bureau of Land Management benchmark too. It's not a USGS one. I don't know if I've seen a USGS one up here. I don't think so. But I always see that BLM benchmark when I come up here. Yeah. Monument Peak, yeah. I think the reason why this peak doesn't have as much prominence as you would think it would is because the key coal, in other words, the highest saddle, the highest low point between here and the next highest peak is between here and Cuyapaipe. Cuyapaipe is the nearest higher neighbor. So the key coal is somewhere between here and Cuyapaipe Mountain. So I think this peak has about between 400 and 500 feet of prominence. But it does rise up just enough to where you can get some stark views of the landscape. This rock pile looks like it's almost as high. This rock pile. Yeah, it's pretty close. So I guess you can consider this a second summit because I did climb a small little bump along the ridge. Yeah, it's that little bump right there, in fact. Small little bump right there. It does not have much prominence, but like I said, it just being a hilltop or being the top of a little high point is enough for me to care enough to want to climb it. So I did it. Okay. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to definitely be taking the road back. So I'll have a slight loop out of this one as well. Slight loop element. Very skinny balloon loop out of this hike. Alright. Looks like whoever was working up here has finished. Oh no, it's still down there. But I getting ready to leave myself. Ready to head down this. Head back down to the road. Just enjoy these insane views up here. nice. Maybe I'll just go shortcut down there. Not because I want to take a shortcut, but I don't want to be around too many people who are working and stuff. There's an SD&G work truck over there. I passed it on the way up, but I don't know if that would be too fun. Kind of not getting their way. So, bye. Sorry, Mr. Buckwheat. Didn't mean to do that. So I'll just take this little shortcut down to the road. Interesting little cross-country detour. It smells minty up here. Probably rubbed up against a parish blue curls. So this is kind of a shortcut. I'm gonna go to that little platform over there because some pretty interesting plant life over there, including a huge thicket of interior live oak that I first thought was my highest elevation coast live oak. It wasn't. So here we are, this little path here leads down to that little utility box. That's why I'm taking it. To give the guy working a little berth so he can do what he has to do without people getting in the way. All right. There's the parish blue curls. Now, they haven't fully opened up yet. They're about to. Some of them are opening up. But even without the buds being open, the purple color is very satisfying. Okay. I am just about to join the Monument Peak access road here. But instead, I'm going to be going down this way. Back down to the actual road. So I'm going to go to that little point there. I don't think I'm going to climb any more peaks. I'm just going to take a leisurely saunter along the access road. Yeah, I passed this canyon live oak, so I accessed this from just a little further down. Right down here is where I finished up with the cross country. I came along here, past that, and then joined the road going up. So that was quite an interesting way to climb Monument Peak. My fifth time was definitely an interesting one. But I'm going to go back over to that over there and take a look. Some of these chamise shrubs are quite old and well seasoned up here. Some of these look like they've been around for a very long time. Some of these are probably over a century old. I can imagine chamise probably lives for hundreds of years. Some of these chamise, they're really short and stunted because we are quite high up in elevation for where you'd expect to find chamise. We're pretty close to their elevational limit, so I don't expect to see 7 to 10 foot shrubs like you would at 2,000 feet in the foothills on a north facing slope. I wouldn't expect to see them that tall, but yeah, common chamise, yeah, they live for quite a long time. Very strongly woody shrub. And look at this stunted bush poppy right here. Yeah, in the lowlands, like at 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, these things will be over your head. Up here, they're a little more stunted because we're quite high up in elevation, and the weather conditions up here can be quite rough. So as that to consider. So here we're going to go to this weird little circular platform. It might be a helipad or something. I kind of want to take a look over here and see. I like to come over here sometimes to check out some of the large shrubs. And then over here, everything grows all thick and dense. Because a lot of these are not near their elevational limits. But like I say, we're about 6150 in elevation now. Come a little ways down from Monument Peak. Speaking of which, There it is. I like when I'm on other peaks looking towards the lagunas, and you can see its cone-shaped profile jutting out over the landscape. Pretty cool to see. Yeah. Okay, here's this massive interior live oak thicket. Now, if you live in central and northern California, you'd be thinking, that's not a large interior live oak. You get interior live oaks that are 70 feet tall. Well, this is a different variant. See, the variant you are more likely to see in central and northern California is Quercus whistleseni variety whistleseni, the tree interior live oak. Here in Southern California, by far, and nearly exclusively, our variant is the shrub interior live oak, and it's this here, Quercus whistleseni variety frutescens. Now, I have seen a couple of variety whistlesenies in Southern California. A couple I could swear are white variety whistleseni along Main Divide Truck Trail near the top of Santiago Peak at about, let's say, about 5,000 feet near Santiago Peak. And I've seen a couple in the San Jacinto Mountains that would definitely be candidates for variety whistleseni. This is variety frutescens, and a lot of times they're quite a bit smaller than this, but they can get up to small tree size as well. They're just shrubbier, typically several trunked, and stubbier, or shrubbier again, than your variety whistleseni, which can be a 1 to 2 or 3 trunk tree, which is taller and you can see down to the base of it. Whereas variety frutescens typically has branching and foliage all the way down to the ground. Not always, but quite frequently. Now we got a really large, old pink-backed manzanita here. Yeah, we do have some very impressive specimens here in this area near Monument Peak. Now, another place, if you want to find some huge pinkbracts, the San Jacinto Mountains near Idlewild, Strawberry, and Fern Valleys. That area also has huge pinkback manzanitas. That might even be bigger than this. I haven't been in the Fern Valley area for quite a while, but I remember as a kid, I took a hike near Pine Cove, a short hike by myself when I was 16, hiking because we were staying at a cabin with some friends of the family back. It was summer of 1998. I was 16 years old, and I remember hiking in an open Jeffrey pine forest, and they were really tall manzanitas like this, maybe even taller, kind of spread out in the mix. And I just remember that memory. I don't have too many pictures of anything like that from then, but it's just really interesting. And yeah, this is pinkback, Arctostaphylos pringli subspecies drupacea. There's another subspecies south of the border called subspecies pringli in Baja, California. I think this does go south of the border as well, but the one south of the border, the subspecies pringli, I do not think reaches above the Mexican border into Southern California at all. But yeah, this is a very handsome pinkback manzanita, very old, been here for probably centuries. These things can live a very long time. All right. And of course, the Puntia fiacantha. This is a brown-spined prickly pear. Can be locally common on the sunnier, more exposed slopes. And you can find that to, I believe, above 7,000 feet. I've seen it quite high in elevation. So yeah, I do like this area. And here's a pretty tall Garrya flavescens. Now, a lot of the chaparral along the way was stunted, probably because it's been fire trimmed so many times. But over here, it might have been protected. Here's Garrya flavescens again, pale silk tassel. A big one, pretty tall one. So I'm going to go ahead and loop around this. Oh, here we go. We're getting flower buds on this Puntia fiacantha. When they get bigger and they open up, they're going to have these bright yellow tepals, which are like petals slash sepals combined. Look at that. Sepals and petals combined, yeah. So yeah, Puntia fiacantha. So In the coming weeks when it starts blooming is when I'm going to have to get back up here and do a spotlight video. I've pointed that plant out several times, but I've never done a spotlight, so it's time that I start investing in doing more spotlight videos now spring is progressing. Okay, I just finished looping around that little platform, or helipad, whatever the heck it is. Well, this pink bract is blooming. Cool. You can see the little pink bracts on the bottom of the flower, bottom of the corolla. That's little pink triangular, roughly triangular shaped bracts. Okay, so there was my peak of the day, a major peak of the day. Like I said, I climbed a small knoll along the ridge, so that gave me a little bonus summit fun. Now it's time to start heading back along this road. This is where I did a spotlight on pink bract. In fact, this is one of the specimens I showcased during my video. And what we got here? What subspecies of Frangula californica are we seeing here? I'm assuming this is tomentella. I think we might be a little too high up for subspecies californica, but it's blooming right now. Yeah. Hoary coffeeberry, another fairly common find here. Frangula californica tomentella. And here's more Garrya flavescens. And these are the little tassels, where they get the name silk tassels. When they're blooming, they're going into seed now. These are the fruits, which are like berries or drupes, that eventually turn hard and dry up. But when this thing is blooming, they kind of look like silky tassels. But now they're hanging tassels of ball-shaped seed capsules. And yep, here we go. This chamise is not quite as stunted. And yeah, these are the long panicles of flower buds. Panicles are these generally erect, somewhat branched, almost Christmas tree shaped flower bud structures, or flower structures. So yeah, we're gonna go down the road now. I was almost considering going to Hayes Peak, but I think I'll leave that alone. I'll come back up there again. I've been up there at least 2 or 3 times. 3 times. I've been up to Hayes Peak 3 times. It's a cool peak. You get up there via fire break / slightly brushy use trail, but it's usually pretty easily passable. Sometimes you might have to back up and look for where you might have lost the trail temporarily, but it's like a small, narrow, brushy use trail. It's not even a third as brushy as the route I took along the ridge line. So that's just another way to make these hikes interesting, is by trying different ways. But yeah, now we got a few some small Jeffrey pines. You can see a couple of smaller stunted Jeffrey pines, and then some more Sierra Juarez pinyon, and then canyon live oak, and all these bright green ones. These are California black oaks again. California black oak is an extremely common tree here. I think it's even more common than canyon live oak in most areas here in the lagunas. Some areas, canyon live oak will be more common. Usually, canyon live oak far outnumbers California black oak. Usually. But here in the lagunas, it's more of an exception. I tend to come across California black oak far more than I come across canyon live oak. Except in certain canyons and valleys, occasionally you'll see more canyon live oak than black oak, but especially here in the main crest area, you're going to come across California black oak far more than even canyon live oak, or any other species of oak for that matter, except for scrub oaks. I'm talking about tree oaks. So yeah, here we are. We're going to be completing the loop just north, or just right near where that closest repeater tower is. That's where the loop will be completed. Thought I saw a western tanager bird, bright yellowish green, flying off in the shrubs. All right, time to turn off the camera. We're gonna get a few pictures along the way because it is very beautiful, and we're gonna be back in the pines pretty soon too. I'm just slowly, gently descending this. Yeah, that's a little mound I climbed earlier. That small knoll, which is summit one of the day. It's the high point of a little miniature high point of the ridge, so I'm counting it. Nice views up there, off trail, so definitely. Yeah. So I have to try to figure out how exactly high that is. It's probably about 61 something, probably close to 6,100 feet. I'm gonna have to guess on that. There's some more shrub interior live oak over here. Yeah. I remember the first time I did this was when I did a loop starting at Horse Heaven Campground. I have a video for that on my, I'm gonna link it in the description if you're interested, where I hiked from the Horse Heaven Campground up this access single track trail. Then I joined, here comes a car. Joined the PCT after about a half-mile hiking. Then I went up PCT, then broke trail to do a quick cross-country climb up to Peak 5958. Then went over to Hayes Peak. I was originally going to do that Peak 5958, but then I went to Hayes Peak and said, all right, I'm just going to continue on to Monument Peak. And then for Monument Peak, I was going to try to go all the way, potentially try to see if there was a legal way I could access Stevenson Peak up ahead. But I bypassed Stevenson Peak, saw signage, and said, oh, yeah, I better not go this way any further. So I think I avoided trespassing, but I was kind of disappointed I didn't climb Stevenson Peak that day. That would have been 4 peaks along this ridge line. But it was a heck of a day. It was about an 8 or 8.5 mile loop because I went down this way. I went up this little use trail at a pullout near Horse Heaven Campground. Took the single track use trail to PCT. Turned right, headed south on the PCT. 5958, Hayes Peak, Monument Peak, down to this road. Follow this road, past the repeaters here, and went near Stevenson Peak. But then I went to turn off to start seeing if I can climb it itself. That's where I saw the signage saying, don't go beyond this point. So I stayed from beyond that point on the service road to get to the top, the service spur. So I just figured, you know what, I'm not going to go any further. I'm going to leave it alone. Kind of disappointed, but I made it about 98% of the way there. And this, what I did is I followed this road to that and then bypassed it, seeing that it was off limits. And I went back, cut around to that road that led me to where I'm parked. I don't know if that was the best idea there. Should have probably just went down that road I came up today and hit the PCT. But what I did is I went around the road, past that little viewpoint where I started my video today, then went down that service road, then turned right to head north on the PCT, and went underneath all these peaks again, underneath them this time. A lot of small ups and downs along that one, and joined the little use trail single track from the PCT back to my car near Horse Heaven Campground. There's the repeater. Look at that real bushy Sierra Juarez pinion right there. It's like a large shrub. It's a pretty big thicket. And over here, we have a few of them mixing in with the Jeffrey and Coulter pines. Yeah, pinyon pines are in a completely separate lineage of the genus Pinus. Completely separate lineage than the Coulter and Jeffrey pines. Coulter and Jeffrey pines are yellow pines, so they have quite a bit of DNA kinship with ponderosa pines, the subsection ponderosae of the genus Pinus, which is the yellow pine group. So Coulter pines and Jeffrey pines are yellow pines like the ponderosa. Pinyon pines are more closely related to the white pines, like the sugar pine and the eastern white pine back east, the southwestern white pine of New Mexico and Arizona, and Mexico, of course. However, they are along the strobus group. They're along the strobus section, but they're split off into their own subsection, the Sembroides group. Because there's a pin named after, I believe this is called the Sembroides group, which is the pinyon subgroup of the white pines, or soft pines. And that's, again, a slightly divergent branch from the white pine group. White pines are along the subsection strobus, I believe, if I remember correctly. Includes eastern white pine, western white pine, sugar pine, the southwestern white pine, the limber pine of our mountains, of Mount Baden-Powell in the Angeles National Forest, San Gorgonio Mountain of the San Bernardino Mountains, top of San Jacinto, and even near Toro Peak, there's a small population. There's an outlier population in the top of Toro Peak in the Santa Rosa Mountains. So we have pines from a few different lineages. And then, of course, we got the knobcomb pines. Knobcomb pines are related to the Monterey pines and the Bishop pines of the coastal central California area. But they're in a branch called a subsection, I think it's called Australes. I used to think it was called the Attenuati, but it might be like a subsection of a subsection, because the Monterey pine, Bishop pine, and knobcomb pine are pretty closely related and can hybridize, especially Monterey pine and knobcomb pine can hybridize and do in nature and artificially. So yeah, we have a few lineages, and the lodgepole pine, I forget the name of the group in which it belongs, but it's in a completely separate group from all the others. It's kind of in a different group. I'll have to double check that one. But yeah, so these are all types of yellow pines. Most of these are Coulter pines right here. Young Coulter pines that have grown since the last fire. A lot of these pines survived. Look at the trunk on this Coulter pine. I've seen trunks of trees that were 2.5 times taller than this that had narrower trunks than that. Coulter pines, you can get some pretty fat trunks on them. If you want to see some completely insanely outsized Coulter pines, you can check out my latest ode to Coulter pine from last March in the Palomar Mountain area, where you'll see some evidence of some absolutely humongous Coulter pines that are as tall as some of the more moderate-sized Jeffrey and even ponderosa pines. If you want some more perspective on how big Coulter pines can get, they can occasionally get quite large. But yeah, I do love this stretch here. Yeah, these are Jeffreys right here. That's a Jeffrey pine. Jeffrey pine is the most common pine here in the lagoons by far. But this area, we're blessed to have coulter pines in the mix too, so it's just another layer of awesomeness here. All right, you got a few pictures of this area. It's so beautiful here. I love being surrounded by conifers. These pines are just really doing it for me right now. I love coming. I love this little area. Second time I've been here, it's just so beautiful here. Just love it here so much. This area kind of reminds me of the Angeles National Forest, the San Gabriel Mountains. Just the windswept Jeffrey pines. Some of these are coulters too that are windswept. But yeah, these trees are flagged because this area gets very windy. And you can tell the predominant wind flow here is out of the west. West-southwest. West and southwest. Because these trees are bent towards the east and slightly north of east. So you can tell the predominant wind flow here. Now when the wind goes offshore, that might be a whole different ball game. Well, look at this handsome little canyon live oak right here, Quercus chrysolipus. A smaller two-trunk tree. And look how densely wooded it is here now. That's why I love this stretch here. And we got Jeffrey and coulter pines mixed in with these canyon live oaks. This area just, it reminds me of the part of the crest of the San Gabriels that gets blasted by wind, and the trees get flagged backwards. So I love the vibe over here, because you've seen videos, and you know whenever I'm in the Angeles National Forest, I'm always speaking extremely highly of it, because I absolutely adore and love the San Gabriel Mountains. It's always been one of my favorite mountain ranges. I still feel that way. I just make it up there maybe once or twice a year if I'm lucky. Live a lot further away. But this area definitely kind of reminds me of it. This small area. So beautiful here. So beautiful here. What kind of birds make that sound? Have we been hearing a lot of mountain chickadees today? Let's go. Probably could hear it on one of my earlier clips. Man, I'm surprised not to hear them a lot today. I just saw one flying though. I saw one. Okay, so we're joining up with the road coming in from the right. And that's how I came up to this spot, is by climbing up this road from the PCT. So this area goes towards Stevenson Peak. Like I said, if I could find a legal way to climb Stevenson Peak, I would have already done it by now. I might have done it today, because I could go down from that to get to my car pretty quickly. But I'm gonna get another picture or two of this, because this area is just so beautiful. Just love how wooded it is here. All right, so that's the way I'm going to descend. But I'm going to go this way for a brief moment. See how far I can go on this without running into private property. I'm kind of curious about checking this out. That's the way I'm going to go down. I'm kind of curious about this little spot right here because this looks kind of neat and I kind of want to check it out. It's like an old road bed here that doesn't see much use. It was cleared fairly recently. All the shrub growth is starting to come back. Some shrub growth is starting to come back, but not much. Just want to check to see where this goes. Like I said, curiosity is a big part of what drives me forward. That's why I wanted to climb Monument Peak, try a different way to get up there, and was rewarded with a fantastic, cool little cross-country wade and bushwhack and light scramble to do so. I'm not sure where this goes. I'm so curious. I didn't see any signage, so as far as I can tell, I'm all good. I'm curious where this goes, though. It's beautiful over here. Yeah, I saw that coulter pine from the other side when I was coming up the other side of the road. It still kind of gives me an Angeles National Forest feel because you get a lot of these overgrown, used up dirt roads from the past that don't get maintained, that haven't been maintained in decades, and you can still follow them with a little bit of ingenuity and maybe some maneuvering around and maybe some slight route founding, but you can find some old, no longer used roads in the San Gabriel Mountains like this, and you can just have a field day just out enjoying the vibes of these mountains. Wow. I wonder if this is just going to lead back to the road, the other road I ascended. Looks like it kind of peters out here. This little flat area. This area kind of reminds me of the Chilau area of the Angeles National Forest, which is slightly lower elevation than this. We're probably just at or slightly below 6,000 feet now. Well, parts of Chilau go up to 6,000, like around Mount Hillier, and a couple other small bumps in the area. See, now this has lost its, slightly lost its resemblance to any old road. And this kind of reminds me of hiking in Chilau, surrounded by Jeffrey and coulter pines. This is very beautiful. Well, I'm glad I came out this way. Well, I'm glad I checked this out. This is gorgeous. Yeah, it definitely reminds me of Chilau. If you like the Chilau area in LA County, which is past Charlton Flats on Angeles Crest Highway, and it's probably about 10-15 miles west of Waterman Mountain. If you like Chilau, you'll like this area too. Like I said, this was not a planned side trip here, but I felt like I kind of owe it to myself to try and see what's over here. Look at that large Eleodes. That's a big Eleodes. Not sure what species that is. It's got more of a rounded rump. Not sure what species that is. But it's an Eleodes, or a very closely affiliated genus. What do we got over here? A little lookout. So this leads. This is cool. Look at this. How beautiful is this view? That's over towards. That's looking over towards the Desert View picnic area. Some of the cabins in the area. Desert View picnic area is right nearby as well. And again, there's Cuyapaipe Mountain off to our southeast, lording really high, the highest point in the Laguna Mountains, and one of the highest named peaks here in San Diego County, at just under 6,400 feet. 6,385, I think, is the latest elevation data on it. Yeah, this is beautiful here. This kind of reminds me of Chilao, of the Angeles. Only we have black oak here, and you don't have black oak in Chilao. Black oak doesn't grow natively in Chilao. You have to go to big pines for that. All right, I'm gonna take a few pictures of this. Is absolutely stunning over here. Okay, found a little patch of incense cedars. There's a little group of incense cedars over here. That's from once I came over there. Check this out. There's some incense cedars growing here. They are native to these mountains. I can smell them now too. They are native to the Laguna Mountains. They're not super common. Maybe locally in some spots and canyons where it's a little moister. But yeah, we got some incense cedars here too. Calocedrus decurrens. A little patch of them right here, isolated from pretty much everything else, even closely related to them. Yeah, we got a small patch of Calocedrus decurrens. I wonder if they're reproducing over here too. Sometimes where incense cedars grow, they reproduce like gangbusters. Let's see. I don't think I see any saplings down here. Here we go. This tree is not in the pine family. It's in the cypress family. But it is a conifer. It's a coniferous tree. Bears its seeds in cones. Woody cones. Yeah. We've got a small patch of incense cedar over here. Yeah, you do find them occasionally here in the lagunas. Agua Dulce Canyon. Agua Dulce Canyon is a place you'll find some more moderate-sized incense cedars. Even a couple of slightly larger specimens on the north-facing slopes of the canyon. But yeah, we got a little patch of incense cedars, but they don't appear to be reproducing too much. Sometimes under the canopy of these incense cedars, you'll find thousands of seedlings and saplings on the ground. Kind of surprised. Some of them are in kind of rough shape, but yeah, we got some incense cedar here too. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Another nicely fragrant tree here in the lagunas. Not super common. And now this reminds me even more of Evangelist National Forest, because incense cedar is found in the Chilao area. Occasionally to very frequently. In Chilao Canyon, where Chilao Creek runs, you'll find incense cedar down there. You'll find incense cedar all over the San Gabriel, most of the San Gabriel Mountains. Even on some of the canyons that drain to the desert side, you'll find these trees growing. These ones don't look too shabby though. I don't think that these will get nearly as large as they do in the deeper canyons, especially in the Angeles National Forest. So I've seen some absolute gargantuan incense cedars there and in the San Bernardino Mountains. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful incense cedars growing here. Very beautiful. It's a good thing I wandered off a little bit, or I wouldn't have seen this little patch of them. Very happy to see these. I always loved incense cedars too. Very cool. Time for a few pictures of these beautiful young trees. Thought I saw a white fir in there, but I'm tripping. It's another incense cedar. I told you, incense cedars, they're not pines, but they are conifers. Like pines are conifers, so are incense cedars. These are the cones. Kind of looks like a duckbill with a tongue sticking out of it. When they're closed, they look like a closed duckbill. But these are cones. Oh, didn't mean to drop it. These are all used cones, but yeah. This is an incense cedar cone right here. It doesn't look like your typical pine cone shape. Your typical pine cone shape is obviously that. That's a Coulter pine cone right there, smaller one. So you would think this is not a cone. It's not cone shaped. But that's the technical term for the fruiting body of a conifer is a cone. Now, fruiting body does not mean fruit. It's the body that it functions like a fruit as it produces seed for the plant to spread. So it's a fruiting body, but it's not a true fruit. It's a cone. It's not shaped like a cone, but it's a cone. Here's a younger incense cedar right here. Yeah. I think this is just going to lead me back to where I went up this. But yeah. Boy, am I glad I explored this. Yeah, there's some more incense cedar here too. There we go. Here's a sapling. Here's a young incense cedar. Some of these are. Look at that. Here's one. Here's a sapling incense cedar. Here's another sapling incense cedar. So we do have a few more incense cedars around here. Okay. It's a very good find, a very happy find for me. Because I love incense cedar. I love basically every tree we have. I have a lot of love for trees in general, but just finding incense cedar here was definitely another icing on the cake of my day here in the Laguna range. I headed back on a slightly different direction. Oh boy. Let's see. Amble down this little steep drainage right here. Wow. Definitely a nice element of adventure today. Wow, yeah, I found the road too. Found my road. So, yeah, I went up somewhere around that way and ended up looping back to the road slightly when I passed by that patch of incense cedar. Quite interesting. Yeah, so here's the road. This will take me back to PCT and Sunrise Highway. Okay. So I'm back on the road. That was a cool little side trip right there too. I made a couple of interesting side trips today to really bring this adventure home for me today. Look at the blooms on this Palmer ceanothus. Look at that. They do have that slight ceanothus perfume smell. It's not highly fragrant, but when the plant's in mass and the breeze is blowing on a mild day, it's noticeable. Slightly perfumed, very pleasant woodsy aroma. That's your most likely going to be your ceanothus. Here's Monument Peak. That's where I was earlier. Not that long ago, actually. Like I said, I had to make that side trip to explore that little lookout spot and really enjoyed this. I'll take this back to the PCT, back to the car, round up another awesome loop, another awesome hike to Monument Peak. The botany was really a good one today. Saw my first ever cholla here in the Lagunas, and saw sugar bush above 6,000 feet. Can't complain. All right, away I go. Passing this little open area with, I'm assuming these are probably, if they're not Arizona cypress, these probably are Cuyamaca cypresses. which would be native to the southwestern slope of Cuyamaca Peak, and only that place, and maybe a couple other spots, but yeah, these are probably Cuyamaca cypresses. They'd be SoCal natives. I've seen them here in the lagunas planted over by Burnt Rancheria campground. That's where I did my spotlight video on Cuyamaca cypress, if you're interested in more information about that really spectacular tree. Alright, well, away I go. Oh, here's another incense cedar sapling right here. Didn't even notice it on the way up. Cool. Alright, see you on the next update. There's something I completely missed on the way up here. We got a velvet ash growing here, or Arizona ash, Fraxinus velutina. Or at least I think it is. There is another closely related species called Oregon ash, Fraxinus latifolia, but it's not really found here in San Diego County. You can find it down, I think, as far down as Los Angeles County. But yeah, this appears to be another Fraxinus velutina. Yeah, the velvet or Arizona ash, which does occasionally occur here in San Diego County. I've seen it once or twice. I've seen it a couple times here in San Diego County. This one was probably planted here. Most of the time you're going to find these growing near creeks and streams. I've seen one or two at Mission Trails, and I've seen a few in Pine Valley. Do occasionally come across this, and it's always a delight. Every time I come across an ash tree, it's always a delight. Now this tree is closely related to an ash tree of the eastern half of the U.S., and when I lived in New Jersey for those 8 years, I used to regularly encounter it, and that's the green ash, Fraxinus pennsylvanica. This used to be listed as a subspecies of Fraxinus pennsylvanica due to its close relationship to it. This used to be a subspecies of green ash. The Arizona/velvet ash would have been Fraxinus pennsylvanica subspecies velutina. But you know, here we go. Yep, I missed this on the way up, so I'm glad that I do have an out and back portion of this hike, so I can see what I missed on the way up. Yeah, look at that. A beautiful small tree. What a beauty. I like to see this in late October when it's all golden yellow. What a beautiful tree. All right, I'm gonna get a picture or two of this before moving on down the hill. This is a female tree too. I don't think it produced any seeds, but it had female flowers on it. Because I don't think there are any velvet ashes anywhere near here. So this one's a female. I can tell by the structure of the old flower heads, the old inflorescences. This is a female, but it didn't appear to be producing seed because I don't know if it gets pollinated by anything. Nothing closely related anywhere near here, I don't think. But yeah, so this looks like a female because they're dioecious. Male flowers are separate on separate plants than the female flowers and fruits. Female flowers and fruits are on separate plants from males. So yeah, those are dioecious. Yeah, a handsome little tree too. Beauty. All right, well, I'm gonna keep following this road back. Should lead me back to the Pacific Crest Trail, and a short stint along that. It's going to be mostly uphill. What kind of lizard do we have here? Oh, gone before I can even get close. Probably a western fence. Alright, so let's see. That's pretty interesting clearing over here. Yeah, Monument Peak. That's where I was a little while ago. Now I'm going along this road. Very interesting day out here, not gonna lie. It's been a very, very fun day out here in the Laguna Mountains. For my 10th straight week of going out and enjoying nature, Man, this sure was a good one, I'll tell you. Alright, well, I'm going to keep heading down and see if I find anything I missed on the way up or if anything new comes up. Wildlife-wise, maybe. So we're getting a lot more interior live oak popping up too. The shrub interior live oak, Quercus Wesselzeni, ready for Tessins. Seeing a lot more of it now that I've been going down this way. Yep, multi-stem thickets. This might be part of that plant there. I bet you there's a big root burl or lignotuber underneath. Yeah, I'm finding a lot more interior live oak now. That's probably why down on the PCT, probably why I keep coming across oracle oak, because the pollen gets down there. Wow, look at this coulter pine. Wow, what a beauty. That is a handsome tree. These cones. There's the telltale sign of a coulter pine. Because sometimes coulter pines can look a lot like Jeffrey pines, only their branching structure is slightly different a lot of times. But when they're really young, not so. Here's one that's still kind of starting to mature. It's going from green to brown. There's a coulter pine cone right there. Man. Oh, man, yeah. I love being around these pines. Here's another interior live oak, a little more upright. See this? Plus this, DNA from that, and this equals oracle oak. That's why we have oracle oaks down there, especially along the PCT. Ah, here we go. Example. Here's an oracle oak right here. Intermediate between the two. Pretty interesting. Yep. I love botany. Botany just makes hiking even more fun than it already is. Climbing peaks and navigating and stuff like that, that's fun. But when you got botany, it just makes it all that much more fun for me. Botany, my love for botany is a big part of the reason why I started hiking. My love for botany has gotten me to go out places and explore. And then I finally started. When I lived in New Jersey, I didn't hike very much. I was lazy. I didn't do much of anything. But when I moved back in 2013, I started thinking, started getting back into my native California plants, started thinking about California native plants very passionately, and started thinking, okay, well, I got a car. When I lived out in California before moving to New Jersey, I didn't have a license nor a car, but I had one when I came back. So I started going to parks, hanging around trees, enjoying them, hanging around plants, and then started going to small nature spots and exploring there, and that's what got me into hiking, looking for native plants. Looking for native plants is what got me into hiking, and then I started thinking about hiking more for hiking itself, of course enjoying botany along the way, and 2015, early 2015 is when I caught the peak climbing bug, where I started making another major reason for me hiking is to summit a peak or a mountain or a hill. Started doing that, and that became an obsession of mine. And I almost couldn't go hiking without the end goal of climbing a peak. I had to climb a peak. It was an obsession. I still have that in me, but I just like going hiking to get out and explore, check out native plants. And yes, I still love climbing peaks. You already know that. But sometimes I just love hiking in canyons. Hiking in canyons or whatever. Here's another oracle oak. Oh, here's a decent sized one here. This one's probably about 25 feet tall. This is a nice oracle oak right here. See? See? This one's got slight lobation, more like wavy edges. Yeah, another oracle oak. Yeah. And another one here. This one's more lobed. This is more lobed than the other one. Like I said, they have intermediate traits between the black oak and the interior live oak. See, this one's got some shallow lobes. We're a little bit more deeply incised than the other ones. More deeply cut sinuses in the leaves. The sinus is that indentation in the leaf that makes the lobe. There's another oracle oak right here. See, I didn't think there were too many oracle oaks here in the Lagunas, but in the Monument Peak area, they can be locally common. And here, yep, here's another, and yep, there's the black oak, deeply lobed leaves. Oracle oak, slightly to almost barely lobed at all. So yeah, very botanically interesting area of the Laguna Mountains. All right, let's see what else I find. Just seconds later, I'm about to hit the PCT. So the PCT keeps going up that way. That's the northbound PCT. So I'm taking the southbound PCT to get back to where I'm parked along the side of that road. So I have a little climbing to do on the way back. So I bottom out at about 5,850 feet, and I got to climb up to about 6,050 feet to where that lookout and where my car is parked, shortly before that gate by Stevenson Peak. So I have a little climbing to do to get back, 200 feet. But after hiking and bushwhacking and wading, I'll probably feel a little bit more on this one. But yeah, here we go. It's mostly wooded here. It's going to be fairly shaded. Not like it's a hot day or anything. It's probably gotten up into the low 60s by now. So a little bit warm in the sun, but very beautiful day today. All right, we'll keep trekking along this and see with some more updates on the way back. All right, so I'm hiking along PCT, ran into a through hiker, short on his journey. But I also ran into something interesting. This cabin here. Seen this tree before. Wasn't 100% sure. But yeah, we got a Pacific Douglas fir right here. This person's got a Pacific Douglas fir at his or her cabin. Look at that. Pseudotsuga menziesii, Righty menziesii. I don't think that's the Rocky Mountain one. That looks like the Pacific variant right there. Because it'd be a little blue or grayish green. So yeah. So they got that person has a Pacific Douglas fir at his or her yard. Wow, cool. I've seen that tree before. Figured I'd point it out again. But at this time I was trying to ponder whether it was a big cone or a Pacific, but that appears to be a Pacific Douglas fir. Branching structure can be quite similar in young specimens of both. Whereas later age, big cone Douglas firs become more irregularly branched. But that one tends to be a little neater. Even you can kind of tell sometimes between the two. Slightly different. A little bit more conical, a little neater. Yeah, that's definitely a Pacific Douglas fir. All right, keep on hiking up this. Next up on the botanical tour, what do we got here? All right. Look at that. Spearleaf mountain dandelion. Look at that. Starting to bloom too. Agoceras retrorsa. First I thought this was going to be grandiflora, variety grandiflora. But nah. Tell because the lobes of the leaves point backwards towards the base of the plant. That's what retrorsa deals with. Oh, got a violet. Wonder what species this is. Picture time. Accidentally hit clip a video. But yeah, look at that violet. I'm going to take a picture of it after this, though. That's beautiful. I'm noticing more violet plants along the side of the road. Just a lot of them. Trail, PCT. More of them here. I wonder if this is a subspecies of Viola purpurea. I wonder. I'm thinking it might be. But yeah, I can't believe I missed these on the way out. Some of them are blooming, and some of them aren't. Gosh, that is so satisfying. Native plants. And that spearleaf mountain dandelion or spearleaf agoceras. That's a native too. It's related. It is related. I don't know exactly how close, but I assume it's fairly closely related to the Taraxacum genus. I think they're in the same section, or the same tribe of the Asteraceae, the sunflower family. Yeah. There's a small population of violets along the side of the trail here too. Yeah, it's been an extremely satisfying hike. Very satisfying hike. And we got golden yarrow too, of course. This one hasn't opened up too much yet. Areophyllum confertiflorum, variety confertiflorum. This one's starting to open up. Oh, there's something different about these. I don't see any ray florets on them. I might be barking up the wrong tree. I gotta double check if Areophyllum confertiflorum does that. Oh, and here are the buds. Here are the flower head buds on... Oh! This one here. This one here, this one might be Agoceras grandiflora, variety grandiflora. So we might have two species of Agoceras here. Look how big the flower head bud is on this. That's insane. This one I think this one is Agoceras grandiflora, variety grandiflora. So I think that's a second species. Yeah, see the leaves, the lobes of the leaves are bent towards the tip. So I think that's grandiflora right there. I think that's Agoceras grandiflora, variety grandiflora, I think. Gotta double check and make sure I'm not tripping. You know, like sometimes even though I say it on video, I do fact check myself after the fact, and I do go back and sometimes review things that I might need a second look at, because I like what I put on my videos to be factually correct as possible. I like to think that people trust my plant identification. So if I'm not 100% sure about something, I will err on that side of caution. Look at this, yeah, look at the Sierra Juarez pinion. Look at that. What a beautiful tree. Gosh. Yeah, we're lucky. This part of the lagunas, these trees can be occasional pop-ups here, even in the forested sections. You think pinion pines, you think more on the arid side where it's desert transition or even high desert. But no, here in the lagunas they occur in the forested areas too, with the Jeffrey pines, the black oaks, the choke cherries, and oracle oak. They do occur in the pretty well forested areas that bear no resemblance to the desert, like here. Well, like I said, just over this ridge, just over and down from the ridge is the desert, the Colorado subsection of the Sonoran Desert, the driest section of the Sonoran Desert. All right, enough yapping, more hiking. I'm just about back to joining the Stevenson Peak service road. So it means this hike is going to be coming to a conclusion pretty soon. Which is kind of unfortunate in a way. Kind of getting tired, but man, not gonna lie, this one was fun. This was a great adventure. Really great adventure. So I just got to go this and go uphill back to the lookout area. What a beautiful hike. Really cool adventure. Been on some already traveled trail that I've hiked, but also made a slightly different approach to Monument Peak, and that approach was much different in the last half mile or so or whatever to reach the peak. So I had that, and in that side trip going down that road that connects the Monument Peak Road to Sunrise Highway, that little side trip was really amazing. Here's that other Juarez Pinion. Remember this? Look at that. How cool is that? That is so cool. That's so cool. That's where I did my spotlight video, by the way, back in 2022. I talked about it by some people being called the Perry Pinion and others the Juarez Pinion. I'm going to keep calling it Juarez Pinion from now on, but keep in the back of my mind that this could still be Perry Pinion. Nice. All right. Won't be much longer before I'm back. About to close this out. Getting near the top of the rise. Well, before the gate closure. What a spectacular day out here. Yep. Somebody else's car parked there too. A few people. All right. Well, this is going to do it for my adventure. Nice day up here. Thanks for coming along. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. And I'll see you on my next hike. Thanks for watching.